Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the OJIAKO podcast. So get straight into UFC Vegas 19. Also, the UFC seems to be having regular events actually every weekend, but that's a good thing, especially with this pandemic they're in the middle of right now. So first up was the big event, the main event of the evening. Curtis Blaydes versus Derrick Lewis, heavyweight division. Derrick Lewis being the Black Beast, as they call him, and seeing his fights before the UFC Vegas 19, as I did talk about my last podcast, I can see why they're calling the Black Beast. Again, I can see why they're calling the Black Beast. Again, it's much more re-emphasized in the fight he had this past event with Curtis Blaydes. So it's a good fight, it's an exciting fight. Now I have to say that I downloaded the UFC Fight Pass, and the funny thing is that even then, still, it seems as if the UFC Dana White still withholds some of the big fights, especially the main fights like Curtis Blaydes versus Derrick Lewis, from UFC Fight, from the app, which you pay for, of course. I think maybe they hold it for a few days, probably until it becomes less relevant. They probably want you to pay for the pay-per-view and watch the event live on the night or just the time that's happening wherever you are in the world. But nonetheless, I had a look at highlights, and it kind of was like a short match. Is it 3 or 5 rounds? But it was kind of like a relatively short fight because in the first round, Derrick Lewis starts out strong with some good shots. Blaydes, he got some kicks in. At some point in the first round, he did get some good counter strikes in as well. Now towards the end of round 1, I think there was an eye poke from Lewis. God, was I right here? No, there was an eye poke from Curtis Blaydes to Lewis. Excuse me, guys. I apologize for that. There was an eye poke to Lewis from Curtis Blaydes. Nonetheless, long story short, into the second round, not even halfway into the second round, there was an uppercut knockout from Lewis that sent Blaydes to the ground, and then Lewis just finished. Didn't really get the chance to finish him off, but the referee stepped in when he saw that Blaydes had been knocked out cold, and the fight ended there. So he won by KO. I saw the uppercut as it came. It was kind of like hidden because of Blaydes had his back turned to the camera that was viewing, at least from what I could see, that was viewing that instant when Lewis sent out his fist to that KO with an uppercut. So I didn't exactly see it, so I had to replay it about 5 to 6 times to see exactly what was going on, and I could see because I was wondering how did Blaydes actually just automatically like that just get sent down to the ground. And I replayed the highlights, the video so many times, and suddenly it was a knockout. It was an uppercut, so that did the trick for Derrick Lewis, and he won the fight. So congratulations. I said in my last podcast that looking at the two guys, just how they fight, the advantages each one has, the good qualities that they have, their strengths, it'll be hard for me to call who would win this fight, because in the last fight, Usman versus Gilbert Burns at UFC 258, being the novice that I am, I thought that Usman Fine is good at takedowns, good at wrestling, and the striking, he's good at striking, but his main strength, of course, is the wrestling and the takedowns. His groundwork, ground games, that's where he excels the most. But Gilbert Burns, his striking is ferocious. It's very accurate, and when he hits you, it's not just going to be hard, but it's going to be on point to exactly where he wants his fist to go. It's controlled striking, controlled jabs. So I thought in that fight, that Gilbert would have the advantage to just, with those punches, to knock out Kamaru Usman. But in this sport, it's not as straightforward as that, as what you're seeing on the TV screen there. And today, though, whilst I'm filming this, it's Monday morning, the 22nd of February 2021. It's Monday morning here in the UK. yesterday being Sunday, I had my first kickboxing session for for this year with my coach, and we're going through just some basic trainings about how to throw a jab, your footwork, how to position your body, just the basics like that. And we're just running over some things about how to avoid being hit in a fight, and how you should be holding a stance when you're throwing a certain punch or throwing a certain jab. You know, your body's going to be exposed to your opponent in one way or the other. So it's not always as straightforward as it looks, as I'm always learning all the time in MMA. So the next fight was the catchweight division for the women, which was Yana Kunitskaya versus Katlin Vieira. Yana from Russia and Katlin from Brazil. So yeah, again, this, do I see? No, this one I think I actually managed to actually watch. I think I watched the full fight. I can't remember if it was a highlight or the actual raw footage from UFC Fight Pass. And I think I saw enough to see how Yana won the Yana won the fight. And towards the end, she had dealt Katlin some serious damage to her face. You know, she had an injury to her forehead. She kept Yana by the fence of the octagon for a while. Not long after that, she managed to get Yana to a takedown onto the floor, mounted her on top of her, and was dishing out strikes. Yana did manage to defend herself really quite well, making sure that Vieira couldn't fully mount her properly, of course, do some serious damage. Now by round 2, Yana had gone Vieira into a clinch and pushed her into a takedown. Now she managed to mount her this time and did manage to get some good strikes in. Now she did manage to keep her on. I'm not going to tell a story about the whole thing, but this is just what I saw, how I understood how the whole fight went leading up to Yana's win. At first when I saw the fight, I thought, okay, it looks like Vieira might have this in the bag, but maybe I judged too quickly. Because Vieira did start out strongly in the first round, at the beginning of the first round. But again, as the fight goes on, as the fight wears on, the opponent that you're fighting, they can change things, very easily. Just, it's just how good they are. And, it's a fight. So, as I was saying to my coach, who is Charlie, by the way, I've mentioned in my podcast many times now, actually, as you're fighting, he was asking me about the why do certain fighters fight a certain way, and why is it their striking may not look so good, but they still manage to win anyway. And I was saying one of the things that they of course, as the fight goes on, they'll be getting tired, they'll be getting injured, and they'll be getting worn out. But still, one thing you need to know, they might be smart in how they approach their opponent, how they approach an attack, how they dish out an attack to an opponent. Sometimes they may trap or trick their opponent, as I've seen in fights before in the past. So that can work, and that can change things. So in this fight, although I thought Vieira would have won, actually Yana, I thought Vieira would have won based on what I saw in the first round, but actually Yana took the win away. And I'll continue that. Yeah, she won by unanimous decision. Now, moving on to the flag. Now this fight, I was hoping to see on UFC Fight Pass. When the fight happened, I unfortunately was, I think it happened, the whole event started at 1 a.m. here in the UK, which would have been, if I count back, about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's about maybe at 4 p.m., 5 p.m. California time in the US. California, Nevada time, because I know that Nevada and California both have the same time zone in the US on the West Coast. So the event itself, I was unable to see it live. when it was being streamed live on BT Sports or Sky Sports over here in the UK. I thought hopefully that now I've downloaded the UFC Fight Pass app, I could actually watch the playbacks of the full fights, but unfortunately that was not the case, especially the main event of Lewis versus Blaydes. I couldn't find that. It was the first event I was looking for, but I couldn't find it, and Charlie advised me that maybe on the Fight Pass they don't upload the fights immediately just yet. They might just give it some time, maybe a day or two to let the just a day or two to upload the fights to the Fight Pass app. So probably to encourage people to pay for the pay-per-view and watch it when it's happening live. But for Minor versus Rosser, this fight, Derek Minor won by unanimous decision. Congratulations, Derek Minor. Either it's Minor or Minor. What I'm saying is M-I-N-N-E. I hope I get these names correctly. If you're watching this on YouTube, please don't hesitate to correct me in the comment section below. Now, this fight he won, but I couldn't see much of the fight. It was a highlight that I had to rely on, but I wouldn't want to give my own two cents, even as a novice. Yes, I still consider myself a novice in this sport. I wouldn't want to give any sort of analysis or feedback on this fight based off a highlight that really was really shit quality, was just really bad quality. So all I know is that Minor won. It wasn't available on the UFC Fight Pass app at the moment, so that's what I'm really going to say about that. Okay, now up next is the what's MW? So it was Phil Hawes versus Nasruddin Imavov. I'm assuming this is the middleweight division. Let me not guess that. Now this is the middleweight division. Just had to quickly look at my tablet to do that. Still trying to get adapted to use it on the large HD TV here. So yeah, that's middleweight division. So this one, I could see on the UFC Fight Pass app. So at the beginning of the fight, Hawes wasted no time in just getting in there with some leg kicks, and Hawes, from what when they were introducing him, just when they were introducing the whole fight, and calling their names out and everything, he's a wrestler, so it probably explains why he's clinching, and his takedowns were really good. So beginning the start of the fight, he got some good leg kicks in there. He was dishing out some really fast and sharp strikes and jabs. After that he got Imavov into a clinch. No, I'm not going to tell a story. It's just that, of course, if I was doing this podcast with someone else, it would be much more interesting, just discussing the fight. But in that, good fight, interesting, exciting fight. Phil Hawes won by a majority decision. So the rest of the fights, the rest of the cards, it was really just highlights that were available. And to be honest, I really can see that if you watch the fight in full, you actually get a better taste of what's going on. You understand the fight better. You understand the sport of MMA better. So I've learned that actually highlights really isn't the best way, and especially if you want to make a podcast, it helps you learn more. That way you get better at knowing what you're talking about for a particular subject such as MMA or whatever it is you're going to make a podcast on. So there has been quite a bit of news in the mixed martial arts community, as well as the reaction to Blaydes' loss and the reaction to Derrick Lewis's win against Curtis Blaydes. But I'm not sure if it was made known just last year that towards the end of 2020 in October, around the time of UFC 254, when Khabib Nurmagomedov, I'll just say Khabib because I'm not sure if I got his surname correct, but when Khabib was going to fight Justin Gaethje at UFC 254, excuse me, and that would be his final fight, supposedly. There's been so much talk about him coming back to the sport. I'm not sure. Even now, as I'm making this podcast, I'm not sure if there's still talks. There's still talks happening now between himself and Dana White about him just having just one more fight. I mean, Dana White's hinted that fans would love to see just another rematch between Khabib and Conor McGregor. I would like to see that. The two don't like each other, so it'll be an interesting fight. But again, I'm sure it's a fight that many fans would like to see. But again, it is reliant on Khabib's decision whether he wants to come back or not. It was made known, it was no secret, that his father, before he passed away, it was his intention, his dream, that his son would have a record of 30-0, and currently Khabib's record stands at 29-0. But it's dependent on him, and even dependent on his mother, as the AKA gym coach, Hervé Mendes, said that his mum has to be consulted on, and she has to agree on whether Khabib goes back to fight or not. But again, what the point of me bringing this up is that Khabib actually had a really nasty illness before he fought Justin Gaethje at UFC 254. Now, he had the mumps, which I've never had it before, but I know, my mom's a nurse, so she does tell me about different illnesses she comes across when she's treating patients in the hospital and in the community. It's very, very painful, and it's very, very, it's just very, very uncomfortable, really, really nasty stuff. So he had to spend a few days in ICU. And so he made a statement: I started feeling worse on the plane, and when we arrive, his English isn't perfect, but this is quote unquote what he said: I get a high fever. It was getting really bad, and after a while I was taken to the hospital, and I had intensive care for 5 days. It was really bad, but after 10 days I broke my thumb, so that just makes the situation even worse. I broke my thumb on October 7th. I was having so much to deal with this fight, the disease and fractures. At the end of the day, we decided to keep the fight and to fight on. So he true warrior. So that is just confirmation, and just re-emphasizes why he's one of the best. Although some people may disagree with me, he's one of the best mixed martial arts fighters in the world. Although some people have said, and they may not like me quoting their name or saying their name, Charlie. They said that Khabib's record is actually quite padded. That a lot of the fighters that he fought were, let's say, they weren't, for Khabib they would have been easy. That's why he had such a padded record. And for me, I would have are you sure that what you're saying? I'm sure there's a whole host of people in the MMA community, in the combat sporting world, that would disagree with you. Even I, as a novice, would disagree with you, and I don't. Well, I would disagree with you, with anyone that would say this, but that's just probably gone on the knowledge that a typical casual fan would have, and I think I'm still at that level now. So, I'm still yet to progress through the ranks to just get to increase my knowledge of the sport. But just knowing who he is, his records, most people, including myself, would disagree with that, basically. And he showed a swollen picture of his just a picture of his swollen face, and when I saw his face in the thumbnail, I actually thought that is this a picture when he got fat or something, or just lost control of his diet. But no, after watching the video, watching the news channel, is it MMA News or MMA World, and shout out to MMA World and MMA News, and they keep the news, they keep people informed, like people like myself, informed about what's going on in the MMA world, because the major sports networks, ESPN, BBC Sports, Sky Sports, RT Sport, and other major networks around the world, they don't really delve deep into what's going on in the MMA community, because I know it's a sport that is still unfortunately frowned upon by by the global society in general. But actually, when you actually watch the sport, if you start something like kickboxing and just participate in the activities related to this sport, you actually find it's not as bad as it looks. It's a brutal sport, but it's not. It's still in a controlled environment, and it's not as bad as it looks. Now, he also wanted to say that he does believe that in the fight at UFC 254, he believes that Justin Gaethje gave up. I'm not sure what that means exactly. That Justin Gaethje gave up. Does it mean that Justin Gaethje easily tapped out, or is it basically what he means? Does it mean what it means? Just he believes that Justin Gaethje gave up. What did Justin Gaethje give him an easy win? Is that what he means? I have no idea, but probably it might add to what people are like. My friend has been saying that his record is quite padded. You know, the fights that he's had has been easy money, easy fights for him. Yeah, you may not see this, but I felt it. He gave up, the quote unquote, these are the words he said. I mean, his will was broken. He gave up mentally. I don't think that I won this fight physically, but rather mentally. Anyway, in other news, Derrick Lewis, and I love many members of the MMA community have been coming out to congratulate and praise Derrick Lewis on his win at against Curtis Blaydes, and there is one short clip they show of is it the particular studio? This is I've forgotten her name. No, I've forgotten her name, but anyway, it's not. I don't think it's that important. Anyway, I would have written it down, but it's too late now. But basically, there was a lot of shock, and shock and praise. A lot of people are happy, but people are mainly shocked at how Blaydes was just knocked out cold with that uppercut. Because when I saw it again, as I said earlier before in this podcast, just the way he fell down, I was thinking, okay, how did that happen? How did it happen? Because his back was, just to the camera, and basically he was covering the other guy's face, what was going on in front of him. So I was just wondering just how that happened. And then I replayed it about nearly 10 times. Yes, I'm about to say about 10 to 12 times. And I was just looking close, just how the hell did this man just go down on the floor like magic? And then I saw it, how the other guy, Lewis, just there's a way he motioned his fist, his arm, and then I understood, okay, yes, it was an uppercut, and that was confirmed by Bisping, who was one of the cage side commentators. It was an uppercut which led to a knockout. It sent Blaydes onto the canvas. He was knocked out, and before Lewis could move in to just finish him off with strikes, with strikes, like most MMA fighters would do in that situation, in that position, as far as I can see, he was stopped by the referee. So it was a clear knockout and a clear win for him. And now, after that win, he said in the press conference, after the fight anyway, that he wants to fight Alistair Overeem next. So he wants the fight to happen as soon as possible. Alistair Overeem just had a recent loss to Alexander Volkov at UFC Vegas. Let me get this right. UFC Vegas 18. It was. His recovery just wasn't that great. I thought actually that Overeem would win that fight, but no. Volkov. Congratulations, Alexander Volkov. You won. Not trying to hate on you or anything like that. Alexander Volkov won. Alistair Overeem's recovery just wasn't really good. In that fight, he had his guard up a lot of the time, especially in the second round. The first round, he'd taken significant damage from Volkov, and there was calls actually questions and queries as to whether he should consider retirement, because it was clear that his recovery wasn't great. It wasn't what it was before. 40 years old. He's had a long career now, 67 fights, and of the 67 fights he's had, he's won 46 or 47 of them. He's fought in a lot of the major organizations, or probably all, if not all, most of the major fighting organizations around the world. UFC, ONE FC. Has he fought in Bellator? I'm not sure, but from what I've been hearing, he's fought in many places worldwide. 67 fights is a long career, and 40 years old. Okay, outside of sports, outside of MMA, that's probably not considered old, but in the sport of MMA, that is, yeah, you kind of run your course. Most people does, but there are athletes in their 40, 41, 42 that they're still fighting and they're still winning fights. So yeah, he wants to fight Alistair Overeem next, but after Alistair Overeem's loss to Alexander Volkov, it might be a while before that fight is scheduled. If Dana White wants that fight to happen, and if it's something the fans want to see. So just wait and see. Of course, after seeing Overeem's recovery there and what he said afterwards, go back to the gym, spend time in the gym, recovering, retraining, training, and then spending time with the family. That might be a while, but let's wait and see what happens. Now, lastly, Kamaru Usman, after his win against his friend and teammate Gilbert Burns at UFC 258, he wanted a rematch with Jorge Masvidal. Now, after that fight, they were all going backwards and forwards on their Twitter and Instagram, saying, "Yeah, I'll fight you. That I took you on short notice with a broken nose." Kamaru Usman was saying to Masvidal, and they said, I think they agreed, yeah, let's make the fight happen. There's something about the fight, but no, anyway, they both agreed that they were going to make the fight happen. It was just needed to be finalized by Dana White and the UFC. And recently, Kamaru Usman has said that actually, you know what, forget it, fuck it, I'm not actually going to not going to be that generous anymore with giving, as if to say, he's giving Jorge Masvidal the opportunity to fight him. Yeah, he's changed his mind. So I keep saying so. He's changed his mind, and he said in a recent Twitter that basically, fuck it, I'm not feeling generous anymore. You can give it to anyone, he'll fight anybody now. So Masvidal came out saying on Twitter, "Oh, so you got cold feet," and then Kamaru Usman replied saying, "Checkmate." And the whole thing's not happening now. Usman's changed his mind. I don't know why, but it's what it is. And this is mad, and probably going to be the next point they're going to make. This is probably mad, and it's probably going to be a big mistake, probably stupid because of what the guy did. But if you remember back at UFC 257, which was going to be a big event because of obviously Conor McGregor is going to be on the card fighting Dustin Poirier. There was an incident that happened, if you remember, the particular MMA fighter who Ottman Azaitar, his name was Ottman Azaitar. Now, he was recently expelled, or should I say cut from the UFC because he had broken COVID-19 protocol procedures at the Yas Island hotel where all the UFC fighters were staying. Well, if not all, at least I can say most, where they'd be staying whilst they'd be there training, preparing and competing for the event. What this guy had done is that he'd given him and his team had given an outsider access to the hotel room and then access to the event itself in the venue. And of course, that person, whoever they were, had not been tested for COVID-19, just to be sure. Now, in that situation, it's understandable because if he's not been tested, the virus being what it is also transmissible via someone who's not even showing any symptoms. They won't even know that they have it, and unknowingly they're a carrier of the disease, of the virus. So it can be easily spread, very readily spread. Now, it's also like a silent killer. So what happens? Like basically, yeah, he had him and his team had foolishly allowed this outsider to come into the premises and furthermore gain access to the event. And so when that was found out, they were all basically, well, he was cut from the UFC. I'm sure his team members, his coaches, doctors, and whoever's involved, nutritionists, whoever's involved in his training and preparation for this fight, I'm sure they all received some sort of punishment and some consequence and penalties for what they had done. Now, recently, Dana White decided to allow Ottman Azaitar to remain with the UFC. Basically, the headline was he's decided to give Ottman a second chance. So let's hope he doesn't regret this, because what the guy did was really, really foolish, really, really dumb. Because the whole UFC team, everyone from the camera crew, the events organizers, everybody, if they were all vulnerable to catching this disease unknowingly. So Brett Okamoto, he did make a statement about this matter. The UFC has elected not to release Ottman Azaitar from its roster following last month's odd circumstances at Fight Island, in which Dana White said Azaitar broke COVID-19 protocol. No further details at this time. So I'm gonna be honest. It kind of doesn't surprise me, at least at this stage now, because I've been following this sport really, really, really closely for a while now, and this flip-flopping of people making decisions, saying, okay, I'm going to do this, and then a few days later, a few weeks or months later, no, actually it's not going to happen, I'm going to do that instead. So it's all this flip-flopping around, like when Conor McGregor always says that he's retired from the sport of MMA, he doesn't even say anything about he wants to about coming back to fight. He just says immediately, just a few days or a few weeks later, you hear him just talking about organising a fight. He wants to fight this person. Well, hold on a second. He just said the other a few weeks back that you're going to retire. So what the hell's going on? Like the boy who cried wolf. You can only do it so many times until actually it gets annoying, and you really start to piss people off. But in this sport, I can see that it's something that happens often. It's just something that I suppose people are used to. And I've heard somewhere in a particular podcast that in the world of mixed martial arts, the athletes and even some of the other people who are well vested in the sport, they're not properly adjusted people, in terms of they're not properly adjusted members of society wherever they are. So it's just they're known to act and just do crazy things sometimes. But guys, I think I'm going to leave it at that. My ranting and raving. Yeah, so if you did enjoy that, please don't forget to leave a like. Please do subscribe if you did enjoy my content. You can follow me on Instagram. My name is OJIAKO1. On Twitter, my name is OJIAKO. My name is OJIAKO, and on Facebook, although I know many people don't use Facebook anymore, I still do. My name is IKE on there as well. Sorry, I had to adjust the microphone quite a few times in this podcast. It's just that it's a condensed microphone, so it's quite sensitive. But soon, as time goes on, I'll upgrade to the Shure SM7B microphone. It's a very popular dynamic microphone that allows for better sound quality without the sensitivity. So yeah, guys, you can also find the podcast on Spotify, Player FM, SoundCloud, Listen Notes, Google Podcasts, and the Apple iTunes podcast, which is the #1 directory for podcasts. That it's still in the works. Another one, once I get my podcast, once I get the audio tracks on there, I'm sure I'll have a much bigger, wider reach, because some platforms out there, such as Podbay, that's just one example. And I think the podcast app, they will only accept a podcast if the podcast is on Apple iTunes or Apple Podcasts. So that's just how crazy that side of things are, and the requirements are so strict, the encryption is so strict. But that's something I'm working on. So do I think I've covered anything? I've covered everything, and yeah, I'm still going to work on the intro and for my podcast, just make it a bit more, just slightly more entertaining and much more presentable. An intro song, and just some intro artwork and some graphic work as well. So I'm still doing a lot of things just to help grow this podcast and get it out there. So guys, once again, thank you very much, and don't forget to leave a like and to subscribe. Thanks.